Murdoch basically accused you of corporate disloyalty. Would you describe that as an act of disloyalty?
Well, clearly I wouldn't, and I make the point in rules of engagement that I do not resile from launching the book or anything that I said at the launch of the book, and I think anyone who actually reads what I said on that day would understand that I was not being disloyal. What I was being is someone who is very, very passionately committed to public policy in Australia, to public policy processes in Australia, and to a good, intelligent, well-informed polity that examines itself and is constantly trying to improve itself. And I thought Chris Bowen's book, there were other things I strenuously agreed with. And I said on both sides of politics, we need more Chris Bowens, people who get up and go to work every day actually thinking about issues of public policy and a social future for our country. And I don't regret saying any of that.
Well, the reaction at news, what does that say about the level of partisanship there at that time?
Look, around the time of elections, people get fairly... I think people lose perspective. It happens in all media enterprises, and there you go. I think there's been a lot written and commented about that moment in Australian history, and I'm not going to add to any of it.
It would be, though, the last speech you made as head at that launch as head of News Corp.
No, it wasn't actually the last speech I made as the head of News Corp. I actually made a speech in Melbourne subsequent to that, quite a substantial speech. And I also made a speech in Geelong.
Was that speech, though, really, is that why you parted company with News?
It became very clear to me that there was a wellspring of discontent which would require a circuit breaker. And within a few weeks of that, I think 3 weeks later, I had offered my resignation.
Well, despite what you're saying about Chris Bowen, you reading the book, you were no fan of the Labor leadership at that time.
No, most definitely not. I don't think anyone could accuse me of being a fan of either Kevin Rudd or Julia Gillard. I thought they ran government poorly.
Indeed, you described Rudd as having a tin ear. You're particularly critical of the then Communications Minister Stephen Conroy for his attempt to ram through, in your words, media regulations in the wake of the UK phone hacking scandal that was engulfing news at the time, and also for foisting the NBN on taxpayers, as you put it. I just want to ask, has the standard of government or governing improved with the change of government, in your view?
Well, I think we're living the change of government large at the moment, and the judgment on where it lands is still out. The NBN, I make the point, is the largest single startup project in world history, which was done entirely without a needs-based analysis and without a cost-benefit analysis. Now, some commentators have said that's fine. I don't think that's fine in terms of spending $43 billion of money that will be to the account of the taxpayer without those sorts of tools. I don't think it's fine to do a startup on the basis of not having done all of the necessary discovery work in relation to the landscape of the nation and the needs and demands and the capacity to pay that is fundamental to launching a new technology. And what I make as a very strong point is that many of the reasons that contributed to the creation of the NBN lie firmly at the feet of the ACCC in terms of defective telecommunications regulation. And I think people need to think long and hard about that if we're to get better public policy processes in Australia and better parliamentary processes. So much of politics in Australia at times is governed by the get-even rather than by good policy. So much of what happens in Australia is not focused on... The public interest is a very misused term often, but the public interest is constituted by things like needs analyses, cost-benefit analyses, proper reviews in periodic times. And I've made a number of comments about that in the book.
I want to just quickly ask you to just get back to news, because it says that it's stemmed its losses, ad revenues are bouncing back, yet you write that the newspaper industry in this country is doomed, going back to the digital discussion, if it holds on to the anachronistic view that news journalism only matters if it's printed. In your view, if News Corp Australia doesn't adapt and change, do you believe its newspapers are also doomed?
I think I do continue in rules of engagement to say unless it reinvents itself ways that are connected with consumers and with the way in which they are consuming information now. And clearly, for most consumers in Australia, they are consuming it digitally. I've travelled a huge amount on public transport, which I'm ashamed to say I haven't done previously, but I have over the last year in Sydney and in Melbourne. And people are vigorously engaging with news and information, but they're not doing it with print newspapers. And very rarely you hear that.
Thank you for that view of the Joey.
You see smart.
Don't you want a Vicky? Come on. That's a boy. That's a boy. Yes, so yesterday it was Mr. Whitetail, was with FruitLoop, and today it's you again, Eric. It's a very strange mating and dating etiquette that you people have. I sort of think I understand it. What have you done to your hand to give yourself a stiff crook finger like that? It's okay, it's okay. Did you break a finger while fighting? Is that what you've done? It's okay, you can have that. Yes, you can have that. Look too close. That's a boy. Yeah, sorry about the radio soundtrack in the first half of this video, but there are times when you can't actually move without disturbing the situation. And the blue wren breakfast flop passing through in a wave, or a joey out of the pouch, not for its first time, but it's very definitely a pouchling rather than a footling at the moment. And you can either film the visual that you've got and put up with a soundtrack, or you can get up to shut the radio off and you can lose the moment. That'd be enough. Yes. Okay. Do you want me to throw this to you? Give it to you. I'll give it to you. That's a boy. Yes. You're a lovely swamp wallaby, Eric. Yes, you are. You're a wonderful swamp wallaby. You can't eat the camera. You can't eat my finger either. No. That's a boy. Okay. Baubles on a lot to YouTube. Ciao.